everybody. Scott McGinnis again with you at the Canadian Arm Wrestling Championships in Fredericton, Nova Scotia. With me at this time is Western Vice President of the Canadian Arm Wrestling Federation, longtime promoter of arm wrestling in Canada and throughout the U.S., Keith Koenig. Hi, Keith. Nice to see you.
Good day.
Thanks for sitting down doing this. Basically, what I wanted to ask you about is next year, Canada is the host of the WAF World Championships, and you are hosting the World in Kelowna, BC. Tell us a little bit about that.
That's right. I'm excited to be hosting that World Championships from 2008. We're expecting probably between 40 and 50 countries, and at least 1,000 athletes for this sport from around the world. So, we've got a great venue in the city of Kelowna, no question about it, and it's a big 5-star hotel and a big convention center. So it'll go really well. It's in December of 2008, and ideal time in Kelowna for people who haven't been there before. So we're looking forward to a tremendous event happening in Kelowna.
Okay, so first of all, what's the weather like in Kelowna that time of year?
Normally around 50 to 60 degrees at that point. So you're looking
comfortable.
Looking 10 to 15 degrees centigrade.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the event is going to take a week. So basically a week-long event. So 4 days of arm wrestling. Is this what we're?
That's right.
We're
4 days of arm wrestling. The first couple of days will be registration and weigh-ins for the competitors coming in. It'll be the general meeting for the whole federation of the world, and then also the continental meetings will be happening for each one of the continents around the world. So this is the time everybody comes together, all the countries come together, and the amazing part about it with arm wrestling, you'll have countries there that actually war with each other, and yet they're there as comrades in arms in arm wrestling, working together in this great event happening.
So from what I've seen the past few worlds that I've been to, logistically this thing is getting bigger and bigger. The organizers keep pushing the bar to the limit. What would make somebody want to put on an event this size?
Well, for me, I kind of started the sport in Canada, 35 years ago, and I watched it grow over. It's been my baby for all these years. And one thing I haven't done, I've done every aspect of this sport, from being the head referees to sponsoring events to a competitor, 3 times Canadian heavyweight champion years ago, and to the point, one thing I always wanted to do was host a world championship event. And so this is the one thing that's...
You've never hosted the Worlds before?
I've never hosted the Worlds.
Okay.
I've hosted 2 or 3 international championships, Canada, Russia, United States, and a number of national championships, but I've never hosted a World Championship before. So this will be first for me, and I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be an exciting event. Good.
So you just mentioned that. So you've been involved in arm wrestling for over 35 years. So when you first started way back when, was that organizing? Was that arm wrestling? What exactly got you into it?
Actually started as a competitor. I was really excited about the sport from the time I was 14 to 27 years of age, and nobody ever beat me. No man ever. So I went to an international championship, or world championships in Petaluma, California in 1971, and I got beat for the first time in my life. And so I understood that gee, this is really interesting, but it had never been organized in Canada ever. So I came back and formed at that time it was the Canadian Wrist Wrestling Association, because that's how it was known in the United States, as wrist wrestling.
Okay, so you said you went down to Petaluma, so most people know, so Petaluma was this huge event in the U.S.
That's right.
So was that like basically... It was called the World Wrist Wrestling Championships?
World Wrist Wrestling Championships.
So was that basically the biggest thing that was going on at that time?
By far. It started in 1952 in Petaluma, California. And
52, wow.
And it grew from there, and I came down there, and they made me a director of the U.S. Wrist Wrestling Association. And so when I came back to Canada, I thought, gee, there's got to be a great opening for it. And one of my first years, I remember John Miazza came to his first tournament with Tony Singer, Popeye, their first tournament they ever been to, and they were excited. They went back, and we all know that John Miazek really worked hard across Canada to get the sport going and around the world.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I just sat down with the CAWF and WAF President Fred Roy and had a conversation with him, and so he got first interested in organized arm wrestling through John Miazek. So it's interesting to hear somebody else who went to their first organized tournament. John Miazek went to one of your tournaments as one of his first organized things. So so basically the gentleman that everybody's crediting with moving arm wrestling forward got to start with you.
Yeah, really, I was first one of organized sport in Canada. John took it a little further than that. He said, let's do this around the world. And he really was instrumental in getting that sport happening around the world. And so each one of us had a part to play, and which is important. Without all those parts, it never would have come.
Well, definitely not. I mean, and no man is an island, so to speak, so no one does it by themselves, that's for sure. So you also mentioned that, so as a competitor, you were 3-time champion?
I was 3-time Canadian heavyweight champion, yeah. So I placed, my first time in Petaluma, I got a 3rd place in Petaluma, California back in 1971, and the only person I lost to, because it was a single knockout system those days.
Okay, you lose once, you're done.
You lose once and you're done.
Okay.
And I lost against the defending world champion at the time, and he had never been defeated. He was the only person that in Petaluma, California, that never lost his heavyweight title. He retired undefeated.
And who was that, if you remember his
I can't even remember his name anymore. He was a truck driver from someplace in the United States, and you really underestimate the man. He just didn't look like he was that terrific arm wrestler, but he was.
You know what, and I guess the same thing can be said about, I've heard it said before, you look at the legendary John Brzenk, he's just a guy.
Absolutely. I mean, I watched John from the beginning when he first started as a teenager, when I first seen John, and I watched him grow in the sport, and it has been phenomenal. Traveled a couple times to Moscow with him, and I watched John grow as a phenomenal competitor, and I had the opportunity to actually present him with the best arm wrestler in the sport of arm wrestling ever.
Wow.
And it was a great time. We had a chance to do a movie together in Las Vegas a few years ago, and it was great to do that movie with John.
Wow. So pretty well then, you've probably well seen it all when it comes to arm wrestling, have you?
Absolutely. You know, just like I say, we were invited to Russia when it first got started, when they were looking at it, and we were really there as instrumental in organizing Russia when we went there, and we were invited. The Russian government flew us over for free. They paid for everything while we were there, and we watched that sport grow, and now they're one of the dominant countries in the world. There's no question. And the exciting part about this, you know, Russia just contacted me a little while ago, and they says they're coming to Canada to whip Canada bad in our home, in our backyard. The U.S. has said the same thing. They're coming to Canada to whip Canada in their backyard.
I can think of a couple of Canadians who might have something to say about that.
That's right. I'm sure that. You know, just like hockey, you know, and hockey is so well known here in Canada. You know, arm wrestling is the sport that Canada, Russia, United States dominate.
Yeah.
And it's going to be really interesting because the fact that the fever of the pitch and happening in Canada because of this is phenomenal already. These guys are not going to let them come into our country and whip us on our own area.
Well, you know what? I certainly would hope not. So, you know what? I think it's going to be a great show next year. It's going to make the Canadian Nationals in Saskatchewan next year big because everyone's going to want to stay and compete for Team Canada in Kelowna. So we should have a full team, and you know what? I anticipate it's going to be a great week.
It'll be a phenomenal week. Next year's Canadians, I mean, they're hosting in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, and I think that it's going to be a phenomenal event. I'm sure it's going to be our biggest Canadians ever next year because everybody wants to be part of Team Canada at that World Championships. And even those that don't, I've heard so many people say today, if I don't make Team Canada, I'm going to be at the Worlds anyway.
Yeah.
I'm going to be there as a fan for Team Canada.
You know what? I'm going to be there. Pretty sure Keith will be there, too.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Keith. I appreciate you doing this.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks a lot. Great. Thanks, folks. We're out.